All right, so some questions I have had on this topic, and I've been wanting to address this for a while. I just have not gotten to it. Was the 3-point hitch on my 1952 Farmall Super C. 3-point hitch. Okay, this tractor did not come with a factory fast hitch. This tractor had the left and right plow hitch on it, the butterfly plow as some people refer to it. My granddad used to use that one-way or two-way plow, one bottom, one furrow at a time, and there used to be a left and right hitch on this tractor. So that was what was on. I managed to get my hands on I don't know if it was homemade, it might not have been, but a 3-point hitch for a Farmall Super C. So if you don't have a fast hitch and you can't just put the 3-point links in your fast hitch, this could be something you could make. This is easily something that somebody could make if you've got a shop and a welder and some basic steel. You can make this, but I was lucky enough to get my hands on a 3-point hitch. I came to get this hitch. I was at the Case IH dealership, and it was a hot August day. The salesman rolls up and says, "Hey, I got something on my pickup you might be interested in." I go out, and here it's a 3-point hitch for a Super C. It was pretty rusty looking, pretty rough, missing some components, but it was mostly there. So I told him, "Yeah, I'll take it. How much?" He said it was given to him. He's giving it to me. So free. Just had to make it work from that point. So I want to talk about how this is mounted on this tractor and some of the positives and negatives with this style hitch on a Farmall Super C. All right, so I'm going to talk about the mounting. Now, I was lucky enough, these clamps here on the axle, these were on already. This is how the left and right plow hitch had mounted on this tractor. It's basically just a standard Farmall axle clamp that came with the tractor. You got your clamp, your bolts. What's nice is on the other end, these eye bolts here, there's 2 of them, top and bottom. They're on an eye, so they swing up and down to help line up. I think it really helped lining up to mount the 3-point hitch to the tractor. So the first thing you're going to need are these axle clamps. If you don't have them, I'd suggest finding them used, or you could even make yourself a set of axle clamps. But this hitch clamps to the rear axle of your tractor. All right, I don't know how the lighting's going to be. The next piece here is an upright. Now, if you're making this hitch, it's just a heavy-duty piece of angle iron. So then those would have 2 holes in them, bottom and top, and the bolts would go through, the eye bolts, and that was basically your starting platform for this 3-point hitch. You can see there and down there. So that angle iron then has basically a 3-point link, which you can buy at any type of tractor store. Just a 3-point link. You're going to drill a hole through this side of the angle iron and get one of those installed. And there's also stops. Hang on, let me turn my light on so I can show this better. All right, so you have stops here, which is also just a piece of angle iron. Again, just a stop so it doesn't bottom out too far, I guess. I don't know even know if they're necessary, but they're on here. Then the top of this angle iron has a piece of flat steel welded there. Comes out there. Another reinforcement piece of steel there, makes like a triangle. And then there's just a hole, just a big eye for your cross member to go across here. So again, this is something that could be fabricated in a home shop. On both sides, that's identical how it is. Just a heavy piece of flat steel, an angle, and a hole. Now this center shaft here that goes across, this is solid. This is a solid piece of steel, and it's just neck down here. If you have a lathe, you can turn it down to go through the eye, and it's not long enough in my opinion. If I still had my lathe, I'd probably want to turn it back a little further or grind it back. I had put these bolts in. They're only 1/4-inch bolts, and that's not enough as a safety. I'll talk about why this became a problem for me, but that's a solid piece, and then that's where your top link pieces are going to be welded in. You're just going to have a basic 2 pieces of steel with a hole in for your top link. You can grind them round so they're not sharp, and that turns with the whole hitch. And then on that piece of steel, that cross member, you got some pretty heavy steel here, just in a like a V shape welded to that. And then that's where your arms come off here. Now this is where it'd be a little tricky if you were gonna fabricate it yourself. This piece of steel that comes off, this has your adjustment right there. You can see you can adjust this with this crank, which is real nicely done. And then your link down to your 3-point arm. This side here is not adjustable. That's a solid piece of steel. If you would want to, you could probably buy the piece. They do make this in a kit. I think you can buy this kit. But again, it's just some basic 3-point arms. I think this is just a category 1 hitch. And for what I was using it for, it was plenty. So as far as the lifting now, I know on the H's and the M's on those kits, you can get a hydraulic cylinder, or they have hydraulic cylinders. This runs off of the touch control. So let me talk about that problem with the touch control. All right, so I have seen these kits. Guys use solid steel. It's a solid piece of steel from the back lifting point up to these touch control arms. Now, on your touch control, of course, you have 2 arms that move at the same time. This one moves at the same time as this one. And then your other control is this inner one. That one moves by itself. So this hitch is hooked up to the ones that move the same time, the outer one here. And there is only one on that side. You want them moving at the same time, of course, because you don't want to be lifting your hitch crooked. But guys had used solid pieces of steel. Now, I didn't have them when I got this hitch, so I had to make something. I did not like the solid piece of steel idea because I was using a 2-bottom Dearborn plow to plow with this thing. And in my terrain with the rocks, you got a lot of jarring and a lot of hammering on the hitch. A lot of chattering. It's just how it is when you're in rocks. And I was afraid these arms break. I have seen that at the dealership, that guys had broken touch control arms, either trying to lift too much or using them in a way that wasn't intended. But these arms do break, and we've tried to weld them up. I believe they're cast. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but it's been too long, I can't remember. But welding them up doesn't usually work, and they're expensive to replace, I believe. So as far as a lifting mechanism, I had started with this hitch with chains. I had chain, just a chain hooked from that lifting point there up front. And the problem with the chains was they wore very easily. The chains, where the chain links would be in line here from the up and down, they were rubbing constantly and chattering. They were getting wore down too thin. So I went to a cable lifting mechanism, which may not be the safest thing, but I'm not using this hitch anymore for any type of plowing or anything that would put too much strain. But this is a pretty heavy duty cable on both sides, and I have the cable clamps doubled up, and I think it would take pretty much for one of these to break. It's still not the safest. A solid piece of steel is going to be your safest bet, but I needed some give. I wanted some give for safety for plowing, and I wanted some give for safety for these touch control arms. As far as strength, I lifted a 60-inch Woods 3-point rotocutter off the ground, no problem. And I used to rotocut with that, and also the 2-bottom Dearborn plow. That's about the heaviest thing I had on this hitch. I would not want to put anything heavier than that 60-inch Woods rotary cutter. That was the cheaper, kind of the was it the country something version, the cheaper version, lighter steel. It's not as heavy as the heavy duty one, and it handled it. So issues I have had with this hitch, I've had problems plowing and having these bolts come off. I've also had problems with this upright angle iron twisting, and these here coming out, that little it would come off and your plow would just kind of basically your hitch would just collapse and fall off the back. So I had put these on. They're, like I say, they're only 1/4-inch bolts, but honestly, it's just kind of a pin to help hold it. And since I had put those on, I hadn't had any problems. Now, I haven't done any plowing with this tractor since, and probably long term it would give me more trouble. But getting a 3/4 drive ratchet too to tighten those bolts way tight. Haven't had any issues. Just runs off of your touch control system. It lifts as high as you want it to lift by the length of your cable, and you can set that when you design that. If you want to put a solid piece of steel, that's fine. Like I said, I didn't do it. I was afraid of the jarring. You're going along plowing, you hit a rock, it hits, and there's no real flex or anything. It's just steel on steel pushing, and I didn't want to shear off those touch control arms. This way, if you're plowing and you hit a rock, it's not solid. You have a little flex, a cushion. Like I say, safety could be an issue here, but I wasn't afraid of having these twin cables on here. That's pretty solid. I think the tensile strength of these two is higher than any of the forces that I was going to experience with a 2-bottom plow on the back. Like I say, I've been wanting to make this video. If anybody has any questions, let me know. The touch control hydraulic system on this tractor was strong enough to lift that 60-inch rotocutter up off the ground. It does have enough oomph. There's enough cylinder strength there as long as it's lifting on both sides. And again, the key is to get both cables lifting together. You don't want it lopsided or one pulling harder than the other. Could cause some issues with bending the steel back there. And I think that might have been what the trouble was, why I was having that piece move off the back. So, all right, guys, just a quick once over here. I wish I had better lighting to show this, but I think you'll be able to get the point. That's a 3-point hitch for a Farmall Super C. Wasn't factory on these. Like I say, this is a 52, so it didn't have the fast hitch. So the other thing, I had to put a chain. This was just for plowing. You know how you have your stabilizers on a regular 3-point hitch? This didn't have it. Now, there's not a... It couldn't swing over far enough to hit the tires, but for plowing on the hillsides, I did put a chain. I just put a steel clamp on the one arm and a chain over to here, and that more or less fixed that issue with plowing along the hillside. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Like I say, any questions, feel free to ask. I will try to keep up with your comments, but that's it. I finally got this video done. It's been 3 years since I've been wanting to do this video, so there it is.